Shoot me in front of everybody?
A gangster.
Come on.
But there are rules to the house.
A drug dealer.
I've been right here with
A
you,
woman
Troy.
scorned.
I got a life too.
From headlining news stories to popular reality shows, these different media platforms can contribute to society's misconception of black people.
If you look at the representation of black people since our beginnings, or people who are descendants of slaves in this country, right away or very early on in slavery during the antebellum era, we saw this systematic way of really creating these dehumanizing images of blacks.
And those images and the molding of society's perception has not only led to discrimination by other races, but experts say an inequality issue amongst the criminal justice system.
Based off of assumptions and perceptions of anything of that nature, you also got to consider who's going through the judicial system, or the justice system, more so than any other group. So it's going to be racial minorities. If you routinely see racial minorities being arrested in the process, then you're going to pretty much stick them into a category that this is the same person, these are the same type of people.
Research states African American drivers were searched double the rate of their white counterparts when stopped by police, although whites were most likely to have contraband.
A cop who is not as unaccustomed to working with or handling minorities or anything of that nature, then that taint, or that stain that is there with the cop and that interaction is going to carry into it with the judicial system, and then it can actually carry over into the correctional system. These brutality and unnecessary deaths at the hands of law enforcement officials. In theory, there's definitely no different protocol from anyone. That's our notion of blind justice. Our justice system is all about blind justice, meaning that we're not going to treat you differently based on your race, based on your sex, based on your religion, based on your social class. The reality of the situation, though, because again, that's theoretically in the books, but the reality of the situation is that's not the case.
And people involved in the criminal justice system, such as police and other authority figures, come in contact with us and have interactions. They often have this perceived notion that we are going to be argumentative and our tones are going to be completely off, and we're going to want to get hostile when we don't get the things that we want. So they take unnecessary actions like police brutality and killing African Americans, and they do things like that because of what the media has put out there.
And that's why some in the media are taking a stand. The National Association of Black Journalists, or NABJ, recently called out the national news organization, CNN, for what they call a biased perception due to a lack of African American professionals in the company. But that bias may not be purposeful, rather sheer ignorance.
I think the first thing that we always try to blame in terms of the media and looking at media portrayals is now we're more so always focused on the news media, like what we see on local news or anything in terms of portrayals of African Americans. But now we have social media as well that's really kind of now been pushed in the forefront. So with regards to the news media, especially newscasting, you always see a lot of violence or anything like that being portrayed prominently because that's going to capture the audience. You don't really see a lot of good being portrayed. But in terms of, how African Americans are portrayed or anything of that nature, the media is an extremely powerful tool. So if you're not accustomed to being around people of color or any other race or anything of that nature, your depictions or your perceptions of them are going to be based on media portrayals, especially with regards to newscasts.
Many people believe the negative outweighs the positive when characters of African American background are portrayed.
I feel like black people are portrayed in a positive light sometimes.
It varies. I think most of what I try to watch includes mostly positive portrayals or more nuanced portrayals of black people.
I feel like the media focuses a lot on the negatives. Negatives, I would say drug dealing, killing, crimes of all natures. I think probably the best things we've probably gotten that it's hit massive media, not to discredit anything else, was Obama being president and Meek's going to jail and his reform. Because everybody just listened to Meek Mill was happy. Just everybody that was happy Obama was the president, just because he was black.
But is being black enough?
the people putting stuff in the media and like on TV, having us play different roles. Stop having us play the rude, loud neighbor who doesn't listen, or the person who, you know, gets taken to jail or is stealing or things of that nature. Like, put us in the roles that white people are often put in, like the lawyer, the doctor, the person who's doing well, the person who's doing right by society. Like, things of that nature would change how people think of African Americans.
I think there's still room for a lot of growth. And it's really good to see, just in my lifetime, how much has shifted. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few decades.